Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside our panel. I've got Matt O'Leary to my left, right? That way. And I got Max is NY Jets to my other side. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Matt, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to talk some New York Jets football and hang out for a little bit. It's always a blast.
Max, first time on the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, and I'm excited to talk about some New York Jets football.
Guys, Max has joined our co-pilot tier for the channel. If you want your shot to come on to the Talkin' Jets panel, you can join the co-pilot tier. But we are going to talk some Jets tonight. Before I get into that, I have a poll question of the day. I'm going to link that in the chat. I forgot to do that, so I apologize. But it will be pinned at the top of the comment section in just a minute. The New York Jets will win how many games the rest of the season? I listed all the numbers off. I'm curious to see what the fans think out there. Are we winning a game? Are we not winning a game? Are we winning 2 games? Are we winning 5 games? I couldn't put 6 games down because it only gave me 6 options. So unfortunately, 6 is not going to be an option there for you optimists. But let's go around our panel. Let's talk about our thoughts on the LA Chargers game and our quick takeaways from that. So I'll start things off. My initial reaction to this game was pure panic at the end. Max, do you have your volume on?
Oh, yeah.
Turn your volume off the YouTube. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
We're getting a little bit of an echo here. Okay, so we have this Jets team going in to face a 2-7 Chargers team, and the whole game I'm thinking, okay. Well, initially I'm thinking, oh shit, the Jets are going to win. Then after that, I'm like, okay, they're in the driver's seat. We're definitely losing. And then the fourth quarter happens, and everything starts getting a little bit closer. And then there's 8 seconds left in the game, and I was like, okay, yeah, they're just going to run around. They'll throw the ball. They'll, whatever. No, the guy takes a safety with 1 second left. He could have thrown the ball away and just, made me nice and calm. But no. Instead, they kick it off for the safety, and my heart is pounding the entire time. Pounding. And thank God Barrios doesn't know how to lateral the ball, because that just, it was just so nice to see the clock finally hit double zeros or triple zeros or whatever you want to call it. So very happy for the tank in terms of that. I loved what we got out of Denzel Mims. I am so excited. This was definitely his best game as a pro. And it just seems like we need to get him more targets every single week. He's just not getting enough, or at least like he should be getting more. Like the fact that we didn't have any receptions from the big 3, from Crowder, Mims, Perriman in the first half. Not 1 reception. That is absolutely insane. And then we got to see, what was it, around halftime, that it looked like Adam Gase took back play calling responsibility. Well, apparently, according to Adam Gase, he didn't do that. He does have the option to veto certain plays, but he doesn't do it frequently. So basically what happens is there's a middleman. So let's pretend Matt is the quarterback and Max is Dowell Loggins. Well, Max is going to call the play. He's going to say, hey, play 25. I'm going to be like, I'm Adam Gase. Now I relay the call to Flacco. Now, for any of you that have ever used any kind of middleman for anything, you're just asking for mistakes to happen, and you're asking for, like, foul-ups. Like, it's never going to work. You're paying more than you need to. Well, the Adam Gase offensive coordinator thing is just not fun. He says he calls plays during his 2-minute drills because it helps speed up the tempo and everything. But I don't know. Matt, what do you think about the Charger game? What were your takeaways? What do you think about everything I just spewed out?
Yeah, first, I just want to comment on that middleman thing, because that drove me absolutely crazy when I heard of that. That makes 0 sense. You're going to have Dowell call the play to Gase, who's then going to give it to – this is just – you wonder why you're 0-10. This is exactly why. As for the game itself, first half, pretty unwatchable. Justin Herbert was carving up this Jets secondary. Pretty much everyone except for Bryce Hall struggled in coverage. Like, Ashton Davis didn't look good in coverage. Harvey Lange was really bad in coverage. Lamar Jackson was not – I mean, the poor kid was trying to guard Keenan Allen, for Christ's sake, but he didn't look good either. And the offense did absolutely nothing in that first half, other than, they were set up with good field position on that first touchdown. But other than that, it was pretty dead. But, man, Mims in the second half, it looked every bit the part of a starting outside receiver, going up and making big plays. My favorite one, obviously the highlight that we've seen a bunch is that first catch on the right sideline. But my favorite play, I think, was the fourth down play when they kind of just lobbed it up to him and he made the catch. I believe it was on the right side also. But to me, that just shows that they already have faith in this kid. Like, okay, he's one-on-one. Let's throw the ball up and see if he makes a play. And he does more often than not. So I am beyond excited to watch him the next 6 games and hopefully watch him develop into next year. And like you were pretty much saying, Ryan, it's not about wins at this point. We're probably hoping more so that they lose, but seeing the young guys play well is definitely something to look forward to down the stretch here.
Max, what were your thoughts on the Jets-Chargers game?
It was kind of disappointing, but at least it was actually close. So what I liked is that Joe Flacco actually threw the deep ball, because I don't like when like the Adam Gase calls plays, because it's always like short and intermediate passes that were like popular in the NFL 12 years ago. And these days in the NFL, you need to throw deep balls. I see all the time when I watch like a lot of NFL like plays, they should like, and Denzel Mims has been a very productive receiver so far this year. I think he is legit, and I think he is better than all the Jets wide receivers they drafted with the Mike McCaggan era.
Yeah, I think Mims has just been – I think he's the best wide receiver we've drafted. I mean, arguably – I mean, definitely since Santana Moss. I don't think there's – I mean, maybe Kotri. When was Kotri brought in? That had to be 2007? Oh, wow. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe let's say Kotri was probably the best receiver we've drafted in a very long time. And I'm hoping it doesn't end there, because we need more options. Now, in my most recent – mock offseason, I had us not retaining Brashad Perriman, but in that was prior to these last 2 weeks with the 2 touchdown game against the Patriots and the touchdown this past week. I would like to bring back Perriman on a 1-year deal. If we can have him as our 4th wide receiver, I think that would be absolutely huge. And then you still go out there and you try to get an Allen Robinson or a Kenny Golladay, or insert whoever your flavor of the week is. But yeah. So what did you guys think about the play of Herbert? Because that was something that I think a lot of fans looked at and said, well, look, that team isn't – I mean, like, he's got a bunch of weapons. The O-line gave him tons of time, and it's like, why can't we get a quarterback that just plays like that 66 yards, 3 touchdowns? Like, that's – if you could draw up a quarterback and how you want – your quarterback to play, that's it to a T. And I think part of this game for me highlighted just how desperate we are at edge rusher. Like, he had 2.5, 3.5 seconds all day long. Matt, what did you think about Herbert's play?
Yeah, I predicted that he was going to throw for over 300 yards, so I wasn't necessarily super surprised, but he just looks every bit the part of being a legitimate starter in this league. And I know he's only played like 8 or 9 games so far, but he looks phenomenal. He's throwing for 300 yards, I believe 5 times now in his career, which is nuts. He looks really, really good. And like you said, man, the edge presence or lack thereof on the Jets side is so bad, because they're starting to get like Quinnen Williams is getting his pressures up the middle. We know John Franklin Myers is pretty good at getting his pressures up the middle as well on the interior. If they just had someone who could consistently do it on the edge, you'd start to get somewhere on defense. So definitely look for that to be addressed in the draft. But as far as Herbert goes, he has a really good wide receiver tandem. He has a good offensive line, and they make it work for him. But the kid has taken it and run with the opportunity. To me, he's no doubt about it, the rookie of the year by far.
Max, how did you feel about Herbert's play this past weekend?
I think Herbert played amazing. He had like 3 touchdowns, and it's like not that surprising because Herbert has been playing amazing. If you're looking for like a fantasy quarterback and like your backup's like really bad, just bring in Herbert. He's just that good. He can make like, he's really consistent. Every week he would have 3 touchdowns. He has no picks. He is obviously rookie of the year, and he's going to be a promising starter in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. I think he's definitely going to get Rookie of the Year now that Burrow's out. I feel so bad for him. His season just ended in such a horrible fashion, and that Bengals team just feels like it's snake-bitten. The last time you saw a quarterback play that well for the Bengals, it was Carson Palmer in just such an amazing year. And I believe it was the last game of the season when he tore his ACL, and then I'm not sure if he ever play another game for the Bengals after that, Matt, or did he?
Who was that? Sorry, I was looking at the chat.
Was that Carson Palmer when he tore his ACL? Did he come back and play for them, or was that like sort of what drove the nail in the coffin? And
no, he tore his ACL in a playoff game in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. I thought it was early in his career.
It was early. I just don't remember how long he was with the.
He was there right now. He was with the Bengals through 09 or 10, maybe 10 might have been his last year. There was a stop in Oakland.
There. Yep, 2010. So when did he have tore his ACL? I'm trying to think when they would have done well. Oh, maybe that was really early in his career. Was that only his second year? They were 11-5 in 2005.
Yeah, they made the playoffs, and I'm pretty sure it was against the Steelers where he got hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was brutal. That my heart broke for that. Yeah, and then he winds up having a successful career basically elsewhere. With Arizona, he takes them to the friggin' Super Bowl. Or no, that was Warner, not Palmer. Getting my old guys mixed up. Sorry about that. Anything else we want to talk about in terms of the Charger game? Anything that sort of stood out to you guys? I mean, Sam Ficken bugged the absolute crap out of me. And it's nice to kind of see him go to IR right now. We're going to be without him for the next 3 weeks. Castillo has been brought back in. The guy looks like he can kick. I mean, just from our 2 weeks prior with him, the guy looks legit. I don't know why we would have gone back to Ficken anyway. I think it was premature there. What do you think about our special teams unit, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, they did you got to give them credit. They made a play early in the game blocking that punt, but other than that, the kicking situation looked rough. I don't think that Ficken was fully healthy. Like, I wasn't surprised at all to see him go right back to IR. And I thought Sergio filled in just fine, so he could probably go the rest of the way even and just run it with him. I'd be fine with that. And, Braden Mann's been good. I think he's been every bit as advertised once he, was drafted in the 6th round. Everyone said this guy has a monster leg, which he does. And he's made a few tackles too. So I'm confident in the punter, and I'm okay with Sergio. Like I said, I think Ficken was hurt. But in a lost season like this, in a tanking situation, I'm not necessarily worried about a field goal kicker missing extra points.
Max, your thoughts on the Jets special teams unit?
Brayman has been playing really good. He's like legit. Sam Ficken on Sunday was terrible, but he's been decent. Sergio Castillo is like way better than Sam Ficken this year. And I think the special teams unit is not that good, but the only good players, Braden Mann and Sergio Castillo.
Yeah, I'm hyped for Castillo. I love what I've gotten out of Braden Mann. The man, the myth, the legend. That's just how we're going to have to refer to him from now on. It feels like his legacy is bigger than what his actual leg is right now. But who knows? Let's move on to our next topic of the day, and that's going to be our head coaching candidates and who we kind of want, who we don't want, that sort of stuff. I know Matt and I have talked about it a little bit, but we got Max on the show. For those of you just tuning in, Max has joined our co-pilot tier for the channel. If you want your shot to get on Talkin' Jets or the Monday Call-In Show, you can join that tier and you can talk some Jets with us. Matt, what are your thoughts on the top head coaching candidates? Has anything changed for you in the last few weeks since we've talked about this?
To me, Joe Brady has risen up my list. I know that in your mock-off season, you're all on that train, and I don't blame you for a second. Mm-hmm. He had a quarterback who's playing in the XFL a few months ago throw for over 250 yards, and he threw a couple of picks. He wasn't great, but their offense just looks competent, and everyone was looking at that team as, oh my God, they're going to be awful. They're going to be the 2-win team. They're taking for Trevor Lawrence. And they're competitive each and every week. They might not win a whole lot, but they are in each one of these games. They're putting up a good fight. And to me, he's definitely a front runner. And, the names that everyone's are talking about, Eric Bieniemy, Arthur Smith, maybe I'm starting to sour a little bit on Greg Roman. I'd like to see how he responds with the offense struggling right now in Baltimore. So he could, climb back up my list. But as of, a couple weeks ago, I would say he was higher. But to me, I think You really can't go any wrong if you go with a Joe Brady, Arthur Smith, Bieniemy, or the college route with our boys PJ Fleck or Matt Campbell.
Max, I want to get your opinions. What do you think about the head coaching search?
So my number one candidate is Eric Bieniemy. He's developed Patrick Mahomes into a top 10 quarterback. Did Adam Gase ever develop a quarterback? No way. Peyton Manning was already established. My number two is PJ Fleck. Like, his players love to play for him. I watched an ESPN video like just a month ago, and like a lot of his players buy into his system of row the boat, and his like coaching style impacted because his son died when he was like a baby, so like his coaching style row the boat is like influential in like the athletes. My number three is Greg Roman, but I get it. Like, a lot of the quarterbacks on the Jets are not mobile, but like I get it. He hasn't been doing good lately, but he's developed Lamar Jackson into to like an MVP last year. And number four, which both of you guys are disagree on, is Jim Harbaugh. He's an actual winner in the NFL. When Jim Harbaugh left the Niners, they became a loser organization. If Eric Bieniemy, PJ Fleck, and Greg Roman leave, I think they'll get other coaching jobs. I think the Jets should hire Jim Harbaugh.
So this is where I kind of come in, and I'm probably going to irritate Matt a little bit. I was not overly high on Harbaugh. I have started to warm up a little bit more on him over the last few weeks. He's not, I would say he's higher on my list than Greg Roman, and I was pretty high on Greg Roman at one point, and I think for probably similar reasons to Matt as to why he's soured on him. The Baltimore fan base just seems to be chewing him up in terms of his offensive play calling. It seems like they're very predictable. The players on the opposing defense are calling out plays prior to them being snapped. It's not a good look for Roman. Now, if I have to guess, who do I want? I want Joe Brady. I've said that. I've mocked him to us. But if I had to guess what happens, Woody comes back. Woody fires Gase, kind of cleans his hands, or cleans Douglas's hands. He doesn't have Douglas or Chris take the fall for firing Gase. Then you look and you're like, okay, well, we can't foul this up again. We can't take, someone who has failed. I think we're going after Jim Harbaugh hard. I think we're going to give him like a 5-year, $50 million deal. Just give him like a fat contract to come over to the NFL. He's a proven winner in the NFL. He's developed a bunch of quarterbacks. He has a winning record basically anywhere he's gone, both in college and in the pros. And while his stint in Michigan is very lackluster and he doesn't seem to come up in big games or anything like that, college is a very interesting sort of situation because you really have to recruit. And Jim Harbaugh doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies to be able to recruit players. I feel like when you're in that division or that conference and you're going against Ohio State's going to get the better players 9 times out of 10. Now, I don't know. I think if I had to guess, we want the name recognition of Harbaugh. We want the experience of Harbaugh. We want the just everything that comes with him. And then I think for offensive coordinator, I think there's a good possibility we get Greg Roman anyway. I think he's been under Jim Harbaugh at Stanford. He was under him in San Francisco. So I could see that move happening. I could see the Ravens moving on from him and then Douglas bringing him in because Douglas was with Greg Roman in Baltimore when he was an offensive line scout and Roman was an offensive line assistant. So that just seems to make sense to me in terms of a connection there. Defensive-wise, I sort of mocked us Chris Hewitt, the defensive backs coach for Baltimore. Before I actually released my mock draft, I originally had Greg Roman there, and I had Hewitt as our D coordinator. He's been a defensive backs coach in Baltimore for the last 8 seasons, so I could see, maybe some type of connection there. Who knows? I want our defensive coordinator to be focused more on the secondary, I think. I guess if we get an edge kind of guy, someone that thrives in that, I would like that too, because I want to see a little more pressure on quarterbacks. I'm sick of seeing guys just like fucking making pizza back there, doing whatever the heck they want, not having too much time. So let's change the question a little bit. Who do you absolutely not want? And Matt, I have a hunch of who that's going to be, but I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jim Harbaugh because I really could not disagree with either one of you guys more. To me, the name recognition thing would be a huge mistake. I think you fall into traps and trying to go for the big name recognition guy, kind of like what the Cowboys did with Mike McCarthy. To me, they're kind of similar. They're the big name guys. Yes, they did have success earlier in their careers, and there's no denying that Jim Harbaugh in the early 2010s was successful with the 49ers. The thing that really scares me off is how things ended there. And it was not a pretty ending. It was a power struggle. He was trying to get more power than the general manager and build the roster out his way. And it didn't go over well. And they decided to mutually part ways. He went to Michigan. And the thing at Michigan that scares me is that they always have top recruiting classes. They have really good classes that go out there, but they haven't developed talent there. Shea Patterson was a 5-star recruit. I know he transferred there later in his college career, but he didn't amount to much. They haven't had very many offensive players get drafted during his time, except for maybe last year he had a couple of offensive linemen, but they're not really developing players at the skill position going in high rounds. There's getting a lot of defensive players, but as a former quarterback, I don't know how much he really has to do with the defense over there. He hasn't been able to win a big game. His record against ranked teams is awful. His record against teams who are ranked in the top 10 is even worse. He has like 2 wins against teams in the top 10. To me, this is a guy who's on the back 9 of his coaching career. And I think if the Jets were to go this route, it would just be because, oh, he's a name. He would get the name recognition back, which is something that Woody Johnson really likes, which is what scares me so much about that potential decision. So I wouldn't be surprised at all, but I would not be very optimistic because I think it would be a situation where, similar to Adam Gase, now granted Harbaugh has a lot more stock than Adam Gase does because of the success that he's had, but it would be a power struggle. And I really think that we need to let Joe Douglas build this roster with all this draft capital that he's gained. And I don't think that would be the case if he brought in a guy like Harbaugh.
Yeah, I think that for me, everything you just said holds a ton of weight. I don't want to mistake what I want to have happen with what I think is going to happen because I think the hire is going to be Harbaugh, but I would really like to see Joe Brady there. Max, who would you say is a coach you do not want to see here, or do you want to respond to Matt's comments, either one or both?
I don't want Bill O'Brien here. I think Bill O'Brien is crappy. I get it. He won the AFC South, but the AFC South was a weak division. The Colts, Titans, and what's the other team in this? Oh yeah, the Colts, Titans, and
Jaguars and Texans.
Jaguars were like rebuilding. So, and the only reason he won the AFC South, Bill O'Brien, was because he was in a weak division. And he's ruined Deshaun Watson. He's been the general manager, trading like many talent, like DeAndre Hopkins. Like how do you trade DeAndre Hopkins? He's the most talented receiver in football. I don't think if Bill O'Brien gets hired as the Jets' next head coach, he's going to move all of our talented players to somewhere else and get all these scrub players that are really bad, and he's going to get fired. In his first year, he's that bad.
Yeah, I have to say the coach I do not want more than anything is definitely Bill O'Brien. Like I get the fears with Jim Harbaugh, but I would much prefer him over Bill O'Brien. Let's see if I have to pick someone outside the box. Screw it. I'll go with this. I don't love Bieniemy. I'm not going to say I don't want him, but for the sake of argument, I'll say Bieniemy just because I just want to know how much he really had to do with Patrick Mahomes' success. I want to know how much he has to do with that offense over there. Is it just loaded with talent across the board, and that's why they're doing everything they're doing over there? Because when I watch Bieniemy and I watch Patrick Mahomes is going over to the sideline and talking to Mike Kafka. That's who I would prefer the Jets to get for offensive coordinator if they can. I think he's probably going to replace Bieniemy in Kansas City, more likely than not. So I don't know. We'll see there. Let's see. Let's move on to topic 3 before we go through the chat, we'll go to some comment questions and whatnot. Let's talk a few fantasy football moves here and how our teams are doing, because I know we have, 2 weeks left in the fantasy football season.
Yeah, week 11, week 12, week 13, then playoffs.
So I've got my fingers crossed. I had a really sneaky move this past week that I'm pretty proud of. I pulled Taysom Hill off the free agent wire. I stuck him in my flex because I had Waller as my other tight end. So I actually had technically 2 tight ends playing this week. Or I had 2 quarterbacks, 1 tight end playing. And I'm in an interesting situation because I'm second place in my league right now, and I have the most points. So even if I lose out because of the way other teams are playing, I'm still getting into the playoffs in any way. Now, I'll rattle off my team right now. I have either Herbert or Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback. Last week I played Herbert. I have Connor as a running back. I usually have Joe Mixon. He's on IR right now, so this is really hurting me. I need a second running back because I'm playing Kelly right now, and it's just crushing me. I have Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, Waller. I had Taysom Hill as my flex, but now ESPN is going to force me to move him to quarterback, so now I cannot play him in my flex any longer. Luckily, I have a bunch of receivers on the bench, but my running back room is hurting right now. I literally have 2 running backs on my team that are healthy, and there's a guy that's sitting in 7th place right now. So I'm in a 12-man league. We have, 6 guys that make the playoffs. Well, this guy is sitting at 7th place. He has like 5 running backs. He needs the guys that I'm playing. I versed 2 more opponents before the playoffs, and they're both ahead of him. They're both tied with the same record ahead of him, 1 win ahead of him. And he needs me to beat these players. So I told him, I was like, hey, trade deadline's on Wednesday. You're going to give me one of your running backs if you want to make the playoffs, because guess what? I may decide to play my bench players for those weeks and screw you out of a playoff spot if you don't trade me a running back. So I'm pulling the ultimate power move here, trying to really, I don't want to say I'm screwing him over, but I'm 100% trying to win this league as best I can. Matt, what are you looking at in terms of your fantasy team? Who do you think you need to pick up? What are you trying to do pushing our way towards the playoffs?
Yeah, so I'm in 2 leagues. One of them I'm crushing. I'm in 2nd place at 9-2. The other one I'm struggling because I had the 2nd pick. So Saquon, obviously,
yeah,
he kind of cooked me. So I'm 5-6 in that league. But in the league that I am in second in, I have an interesting dilemma at wide receiver that I was hoping you guys would be able to help me talk through. So
okay.
Adam Thielen is one of my wide receivers. Now he's got a COVID issue, so I don't know if he's going to play this week or not. So do I ride it out and see if this guy plays, or I could either put Will Fuller, who's in my flex right now, or I do have DJ Shark on my bench. So do I just say, let's put Shark into the lineup in that wide receiver spot, or do I go, all right, just, because Thielen has the better quarterback and is projected to put up more points, do I just pray that he plays this week? What's the deal?
I think it might depend on who you're versing. Like in your league, where does your opponent stack up in terms of his record? How safe are you? It sounds like you're probably making the playoffs either way. But
yes.
Are you're still trying to lock down a first round bye, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I'm technically not in a bye because how it works is it goes by divisions, and while I have the second record, I'm not leading a division. So the person with the best record is actually ahead of me. They're in first. I'm in 2nd place in my division, so I don't have a bye. So I'm trying to go all out. I'm trying to catch him.
Now, what is that guy in front of you? What's his record? Is it points, or is it like a win-loss thing?
He's 10-1. He has half a point more than me. He has 1,281.5. I got 1,281. So we are really close.
Wow. Okay. So now in these final 2 weeks, who are your opponents? Do you know? Like, are you playing this guy at all? Like, could it be an interesting swing?
No, I am playing let's see. I'm playing a 3-8 team, and then after that, a 4-7 team. So I would say that I'm probably in pretty good shape against this 3-8 team that's coming up.
So you really need whoever that guy's versing to do well. Like you almost want to like look at trading a player to another team to screw him out of a first round bye. No,
I think
let's see. Wide receiver wise, it's 12-man league.
12-man league, yeah.
12-man league, man. Wide receivers that could be out there. That's tough. I picked up. I have always like had weak wide receivers in the past few years, and I've always gone like heavy running back. This year I went heavy wide receiver, so now my entire bench is loaded with wide receivers, but I don't know who's available in like other leagues.
Right.
Can you pull up your waiver wire and see who's available?
Nelson Aguilar is available. That might not be
as much as I was gonna say, as much as I don't like what he did on the Eagles, he's actually doing all right for the Raiders. That might not be a bad ad. When are the Vikings playing this week? Is it like a Sunday game?
Great question. I believe so.
Because that may be the move. It may be worth pulling him in. I don't know. I'm not sure.
That might be that's what I'm leaning.
I like keeping Thielen in. Like I almost wanted to. Like last week, I had Mixon in until like the very end, and I was like, all right, I got to pull him out because I can't risk this. But with Thielen, he's so good. It would suck to put him on your bench.
Yeah, that's my scenario.
That's
I don't want to
dilemma.
Yeah, I don't want to be the guy who's like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna bail on him, and then he scores 2 touchdowns again. Like then I'm screwed.
The nice thing is you're versing a 3-8 team, and I would like to believe that even without Thielen, you should be able to beat this team.
You would think so, but you never know on a week-to-week basis.
And any given week, right? That's the NFL.
Any given Sunday.
Max, how are you doing on your fantasy teams, and who are there players that you think people should be looking towards, or what do you think?
In my friend league, I'm like really bad 2-9, but like the league I focus on more, like the one I'm like really good in is like I'm in a stranger league. I'm like 8-3, won 6 straight games, and my players are I have Aaron Rodgers, Derrick Henry, Todd Gurley, Stephon Diggs, Travis Fulgham, Gronk, Higgins, Bills defense, Rodrigo Blankenship, David Johnson, Robbie Gould, Patriots D, Mo Alley Cox, Chase Claypool, Justin Herbert, and Mike Davis.
Interesting.
And next week I'm playing a 2-6 opponent in Teamer and Con. He's 2-9. And the following week, I'm playing a 6-5 opponent. So I can easily win those 2 games since like a lot of like people in my league just like keep playing those players even though they have bye weeks. So I can easily win.
Yeah, no, you got to make sure you take out those bye weeks. If you're playing guys on bye weeks at IR.
That's why on Tuesdays I'm always on those waivers. Like I'm trying to pick up some good players. And some players I recommend, if Justin Herbert's still on the waiver, pick him up. He is so legit. Every week he's so consistent. So, and another pickup you should get, I have 2 waiver claims. I'm going to get Jarvis Landry from Cleveland as a backup receiver, and I'm going to drop David Johnson since he's on injured reserve, and I'm picking up Gus Edwards since Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, that's really the big running back move. I have a waiver claim in for him, but I'm going to be one of the last guys to get a claim, unfortunately. Hopefully no one's paying attention, and then I can sneak in and snatch that one up.
Yeah, I picked him up already. How I usually win is I usually like do all my waiver / like I do it all on Tuesday, so I can have a competitive advantage.
Yeah, for sure. That's the way to do it. All right. Let's move on from the fantasy football topics, and let's talk a little bit about the comment section, and let's see what's going on. I actually have to crop this. I'm screwing this up right about now. So I apologize. You're getting all the behind-the-scenes features here on Jets Talk 24/7. That's all right. Bam! V-Man says, I heard the Jets may chase Matt Campbell. I think he is my favorite. By the way, what ex-NFL quarterback in a 3-year span beat Peyton Manning and Drew Brees in the playoffs? So I know the answer to this because I got it wrong. I think it was last night. Matt, do you know which quarterback over a 3-year span beat Peyton Manning and Drew Brees?
This is an interesting question. Okay, so
I screwed it up. I was like, God damn it. I can't get it.
Russell Wilson?
Max, do you know who?
It's Chad Pennington.
Ah, you got it right. Yeah,
Is it?
so Breeze was still on the Chargers at that point. That was early 2000s. And then we thumped the Colts. What was that? Just after 2000, was it 2002 or 2003? So let's see. Matt Campbell. I don't know enough about Matt Campbell. Matt, I think you probably know more than me on this subject since you did the whole head coaching video. Can you tell us a little bit about Matt Campbell and why you think it might be V-Man's favorite?
Yeah, I definitely see he gets comparisons to Matt Rule because he's someone who like comes in and can revamp a program. And I kind of feel that Matt Campbell and PJ Fleck are in a similar boat in the Matt Rule kind of the school of coaching where they are able to come in, build a culture, build a program. So if that's the direction you're looking to go, then I think those two guys would definitely make sense. To me, it's not really like a Cliff Kingsbury because everyone knew that he was like a very heavy offensive specialist, where these guys are more program based, I would say.
That makes me feel a little bit better. Like I want a guy that has been a head coach before. That's kind of where I was trying to steer my head coaching search, which is sort of why I was leaning on a Campbell or like an Urban Meyer or Lincoln Riley, Dabo Swinney, like some of the guys from the college ranks. Jim Harbaugh being one of those potential guys. I would like to see someone who could be a team builder because obviously the Jets got it wrong not bringing in Matt Rule because Matt Rule literally picked like the best coordinators you could possibly pick, and now his team looks to be pretty good or at least trending in the right direction. Max, any thoughts on Matt Campbell? I don't know how much research you've done on
I
him.
haven't researched Matt Campbell yet, but I think he's a good coach, and I agree with Matt. I think he can build a culture. That's why I've been like wanting PJ Fleck because he can build a culture, turn around Minnesota, Western Michigan from a 1-11 program to a 13-1 top 25 college football team, and same thing with Minnesota. He can turn around programs. PJ Fleck in his first six. In his third year, they went like 13 and like undefeated, and then they didn't go in the college football playoffs, and it really needs to be fixed, the college football playoffs, since it's like only 4 teams. If it was expanded to 8 teams, PJ in his third year, PJ Fleck would have been in the college football playoffs, Minnesota, and it would have been an amazing turnaround.
Let's see. Dark Demonic says the Dolphins last year got their first win against us. Could the Jets do it back to them? Man, oh man. I hope not. I don't think so. I think because the Dolphins lost the way they lost to Denver, I think they're going to come out really angry and really upset. Now, I'm hoping Sam Darnold doesn't decide to have one of his, I'm back from injury, here we go, we're going to go off and win fucking 3 or 4 games at the end of the season. I think this defense is too bad to actually stop the points from happening. Like, that's one of the things you need to do when you tank. Don't complete passes. Don't stop passes. And then, just fucking run the clock out. That's what it is. You got to do all those things and make it happen. If you can't rush the passer, the quarterback has too much time. You can't stop the pass, and then you can't pass yourself. Flacco has absolutely turned this thing on its head. I definitely was not hoping to see him. And I would like to believe that we see Sam Darnold practice on Wednesday and they say, okay, he's going to be game ready. Because I have this fear. The way Adam Gase sort of worded the Sam Darnold thing was he's going to test out his arm. It's really going to be about how he's feeling. We're talking about, not just from a throwing perspective, but from a hit and being driven into the ground perspective. I've said for the last few weeks now that the Jets may be trying to shield Darnold to preserve his trade value. Matt, what do you think about the Dolphins and the Jets' chances of possibly winning this game?
I don't think the Jets have much of a shot. The Dolphins came off a surprising loss to Denver. I think this is going to be a motivated team. I think Tua is going to be motivated this week to bounce back as well. So even if it's Darnold or if it's Flacco again, I don't think it really matters who's going to play quarterback for the Jets. I think that the Dolphins win this game by a touchdown, at least, just because, like I said, they're going to be a motivated team. And let's not forget, they beat this team by 24 points just a few weeks ago. So even if the Jets are playing better football now, I still think Miami gets the W here.
Max, how are you feeling about the Dolphins and possibly the Jets getting their first win against them?
I don't think the Jets are getting their first one. We are really bad this year. Like last year, I get it. Like we lost to the Dolphins, but the Jets were actually at least competitive last year. This year, the Jets are crap. We are 0-16, and Adam Gase we're going to go 0-16, and Adam Gase seriously needs to get fired. I think we're going to lose by a blowout because Tua has been playing amazing. Tua has been like 3-1, and the only loss Tua lost is the Broncos, but the Broncos think play good on defense. That's why they lost.
Yeah, I don't see the Jets winning this game. I would say it gives me a little bit of concern because if Fitz is playing, I feel like he has hot and cold games. If he's been red hot, we got shut out earlier this year. So it wouldn't surprise me to see us just get thumped again. I hope that's what it is. I don't want this to be close. I don't know. I want it to be close because I want to enjoy the game, but I want to lose, and I don't want to have like a goddamn heart attack while this thing's going on. I want to lose like nice and confidently. I want to go into the last 5 games of the season after this week and feel like we're definitely going to be the worst team and just go 0-16. So I don't know. Chris P98 says top 5 Jet quarterbacks of all time. Go. All right, so let me see. If I had to rattle those off, I haven't been around that long. I've been watching the Jets since 95, I guess, when I was like 6 years old. So I'm going to try and keep this. We'll put Namath at the top. He's got the Super Bowl ring. So I'm going to only go with the 4 quarterbacks that I've really been around to kind of see. I would say my second place quarterback, well, I guess this could get kind of interesting. You could say Brett Favre for 1 year if you wanted to do that. I'm not going to put that in there. I'm going to say Pennington's number 2. Number 3 is probably got to be either Testaverde or Sanchez. So those would be my 3, 4. And then 5, I mean, we really haven't had, I shouldn't say we haven't had that many starting quarterbacks. I guess I'll say Darnold. I think Darnold's talented. He's not going to be a top 5 Jets quarterback. That's really the big issue there. Matt, what do you think? Who are your top 5 Jets quarterbacks?
Namath 1, Pennington 2, Vinny 3, Ken O'Brien 4, Sanchez 5.
Fair enough. Max, what about you?
So I've only been watching the Jets since 2016, so my top 3 are number 1, Joe. What's the quarterback again from? Joe Namath. He won a Super Bowl with the Jets. Number 2 is Sam Darnold. I've only been watching the Jets in 2016, but Sam Darnold, the first 2 years, he was really talented. And my number 3 is Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I kind of forgot about Fitzpatrick. He owns our touchdown record, and maybe I guess that'll be my 5th quarterback. I'd have to take Darnold out, and I'd have to put Fitzpatrick there, which sucks, but I guess that's where it would go. Strickland says Darnold plays, gets hurt, we're stuck with him, put him on IR. If we're stuck with him, his contract's really not that bad for next year, so it's not like the worst case scenario. My biggest thing is I want to make sure we retain his trade value. So you don't want to like hurt him too bad. I think what happens is they find a way, like maybe he takes a sack and he comes up a little slow and they're like, hey, we're just going to IR him for 3 weeks. I think that's what's eventually going to happen. Matt, what do you think about Darnold and the possibility of the Jets getting stuck with him?
I don't really see a scenario in which he's going to be on this roster next year. Because one, I don't think they're winning a game, so that put them in position with the first pick anyway. And they would obviously take Trevor Lawrence. But even if they're probably at worst finishing second, and then at that point you either take Justin Fields or the BYU quarterback, depending on who you like. Most people probably take Fields. And then I think he's getting traded. I don't think there's really a scenario in which he's on this team next year. I really don't.
Max, what about you? What do you think about Sam Darnold and the Jets possibly trading him going on IR, him getting injured? What do you think?
For this year, I would say probably not. Like, Sam Darnold's been talented the last 2 years, but this year he's been crappy. Through like a bunch of games he played, he only has 3 touchdowns. And literally, I watched the Thursday night football game against Arizona Cardinals against the Seattle Seahawks. Kyler Murray had the same injury Sam Darnold had, and Kyler Murray actually played the game. Sam Darnold, when he got his shoulder injury Thursday night against the Broncos, I think he went out for like one offensive possession, came back in, and he missed weeks. And Kyler Murray is not the same. He had the same shoulder injury Darnold had, but he still went on the field and he performed at a high level. It's simply no excuse why Darnold's still on injury reserve. I get it, his shoulder's bad, but Kyler Murray played great even when he had a shoulder injury.
Yeah, I think that will be an interesting thing with Sam Darnold. I think the whole issue with me and him is just don't win games. Like, I think we have a better shot at winning games with Flacco than we do with Darnold. So that's kind of why I want Darnold to play. I think the arm strength is really the difference maker here. I think Flacco's got the cannon of an arm. He's getting the ball down to Mims. He's getting it to Perriman. Darnold doesn't have that arm, so teams aren't going to be backing off on coverage quite as much as we see with Flacco, which is kind of interesting to me. Because I have thought all season long, and even back to the draft, when we did take Morgan in the 4th round, I know a lot of us did not like that pick, but the idea that, what did I do? Am I still alive? I just hit a lock button on my computer, so I don't know if I'm good. Okay. Oh, my screens went black for a second. Jesus. Where was I going with this? I threw myself off. What was I just saying?
You were talking about, what the hell were we talking about? Jesus Christ. Oh, Flacco and Darnold and the deep.
Flacco, Morgan. I think Morgan has a strong arm. Morgan looks more like a Flacco than he does like a Sam Darnold or anything like that. Now, look, let's get into this question, because I saw Matt's video and he got me a little fired up with the thumbnail, and I changed myself. Let's say, who is a bigger bust, Hackenberg or Morgan? Matt, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so you would have thought I was the first YouTuber to ever use clickbait in a video before with some of the reactions.
Oh man, you caught me! I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was a little clickbaity, yes. But I wanted to talk about Morgan. And I'm still not a fan of the pick. But for where they took Hackenberg, of course, it's Christian Hackenberg without a doubt. The reason why I phrase the title like that, is he Christian Hackenberg 2.0, is because of their inability to even want to dress him, which is what scares me off, that we are a ways away from him being ready to take NFL snaps, which to me, again, goes back to my original point and the original anger we both had when he was drafted, is why the hell are you taking a developmental piece in the 4th round when you have so many goddamn holes on your roster? Like, they are not in a position to do that. If this is, I don't know, Kansas City, San Francisco, Seattle, like teams are good teams, don't have a whole lot of holes, and then could move on or trade them off or have a long-term backup or whatever the case may be. Okay, then you take a developmental pick there. But with the amount of holes, like we did how many stuff pre-draft, we were talking about, well, the Jets need this position, this position, this position. We ran down like, 19 of the 22 spots in the starting lineup, like they need help at. So I did not understand the pick then. I still don't understand it now. And but to answer the question, it's definitely Hackenberg without a doubt.
Yeah, for me, the whole Hackenberg and Morgan thing, I understand the parallels because he's not being dressed. You're not playing him. It's a waste of a pick, at least for the first season. For me, it's easily Hackenberg. And I would argue Hackenberg is the biggest bust in Jets history, just because of the repercussions that we've felt across this entire thing. Now, if you talk about butterfly effect and everything, all these different things could possibly happen. So let's say the Jets don't take Christian Hackenberg. They literally take any other player that is not a quarterback. Because when you take a quarterback as late as they took Christian Hackenberg, the very there's a very teeny tiny chance that quarterback actually succeeds. The quarterbacks that have succeeded after that Hackenberg pick, you're talking like Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins. Like, second-round quarterbacks just don't pan out when it's that late. Like, earlier round quarterbacks, Drew Brees, some other guys. I understand. I get that. That makes sense. For me with Hackenberg, if you don't take him, now the following year, you have no reason to take Jamal Adams. You are taking Patrick Mahomes or you're taking Deshaun Watson in that spot. So you automatically get one of those two guys. Then the following year, if we were to sit that quarterback for an entire year like we sort of planned with Hackenberg and how we saw happen with Patrick Mahomes out in Kansas City, then you probably wind up with that 6th overall pick, the same one that you had to trade up with to get Sam Darnold. You now have Quentin Nelson and 3 second-round picks. Now imagine having Patrick Mahomes, Quentin Nelson, and 3 second-round picks. This team looks drastically different.
Yep.
And I think that, to me, is why Hackenberg is just so damning of a player. Now, if you want to really get all butterfly effect, maybe Hackenberg is the best pick in Jets history because it wound up getting us Sam Darnold, and then eventually Sam Darnold's going to be traded, and we get Trevor Lawrence, and then it winds up being this whole it's so convoluted. That's some deep levels right there.
Yeah.
Like, you can go, if you want to go real far back, Darrell Revis technically got us Sam Darnold, kind of, because we traded away. Here, let me unfold this. We had, it's not really the tinfoil hat. It's like actual fact. So Darrell Revis gets traded to the Bucs. We get a first-round pick. We draft Sheldon Richardson. Sheldon Richardson eventually gets traded to the Seattle Seahawks for a second-round pick. We then trade that second-round pick plus 2 other second-round picks and our 6th overall pick up to get Sam Darnold. So that's kind of where that falls in. Max, in your opinion, who would you say is the whether it's the bigger bust or the Jets' biggest bust? What would you kind of put in there?
I think Christian Hackenberg is like the biggest draft bust in New York Jets history. He was a second-round pick, and he never played in any preseason games. He never played in any regular season games. If we didn't draft Christian Hackenberg, we would have not taken Jamal Adams. We would have taken Patrick Mahomes, developed him, and the Jets would have had the Super Bowl already. And we would have gone weapons around Mahomes. What I'm saying in the 2019 draft is, when I was watching, I was rooting for the Jets to take DK Metcalf. We took Quentin Williams. In my opinion, it was a huge mistake. Quentin Williams, I get he's a good player, but DK Metcalf is absolutely destroying the NFL right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you could have gotten DK in that spot, the issue for me, and it was actually someone I was considering taking like early on in this process, and then I watched him fall to, what was it, the end of the second round? Like, the Jets, unfortunately, traded away that second-round pick. So then you could even talk, if we're really going even layers deep, the Jets probably take DK Metcalf in the second round of that draft if we don't lose all those second-round picks that we gave up for Sam Darnold. So it's an interesting thought process. Matt, you look like you got something to say.
Yeah, I can't justify taking a receiver that high. I think if anything, the pick would you could maybe sell me on the Josh Allen over Quentin Williams, but they probably don't have the 3rd overall pick if they take Mahomes 2 years prior. So it's a whole situation. But they messed up because of Hackenberg, because they waited that 2017 year when they could have said, we'll take Deshaun Watson or Pat Mahomes, which would have been easier and the smart decision, and then we wouldn't have had to trade all our draft picks.
That would have been the smart move. Mikey Mals says trade Darnold for a pick or a player and a lesser pick. Could get something the Jets need, and another team really was high on Darnold during the draft could get their quarterback. That is an option I really like. I would prefer to trade Sam for a proven player as opposed to a raffle pick. Now, that said, if we're going to get a first-round pick, like Daniel Jeremiah is sort of predicting we'll get, I would be very, very happy. I don't think it's going to happen. I still think 2nd or 3rd round pick is really where we wind up. But if I had to take a player on from a team that could be looking to take on Darnold, the 2 players I'm taking a real hard look at are Lattimore and I always forget this guy's name, the right tackle for the Saints.
Ramczyk.
Ramczyk, yeah. Those would be the 2 guys I would look for to trade to immediately upgrade this team because they're both going into the last years of their deals. The Saints have a ton of money that they are over the cap on. So for me, I would move on, and I would take one of those two guys in a trade. Matt, are there any players that you would like to see the Jets get, or would you prefer a pick or a player? Either sort of way there.
To be completely honest with you, I think I would rather the picks. I don't hate the idea of going and getting a corner or a right tackle, like you said. I just think Joe Douglas deserves to do this himself in terms of building this thing up through the draft. So I give me that second and fifth and let's roll with that. And maybe you flip that 5th round pick that you acquire for a player, whether it be a wide receiver or something like that. But I think I would take the draft picks at that point.
Max, what about you? Would you prefer a player or picks for a Sam Darnold
I'd rather get a player. So I think Sam Darnold should be traded to the Bears. Since Mitch Trubisky has been really bad, we should trade Sam Darnold, get Allen Robinson. Since Mitch Trubisky has been really bad, Allen Robinson has been a top 5 receiver. Even with a bad quarterback, he was still top 5, even with Mitch Trubisky. And Mitch Trubisky was crap.
Now, Allen Robinson is a free agent, so Allen Robinson's going to be a free agent, but I'll spin it a different way. So if I'm going to trade Sam Darnold after the season and it's going to the Bears, the player that I'm going to try and target, and I don't know what it would cost us because it would have to cost us more than Sam, I would think, unless the contract, moves over or is like it's a contract dump. I would like to get Khalil Mack. That would be the guy I would be gunning for if I'm the Jets because I don't want to say a little bit older, but he's getting paid a bucket load of money on the Bears. If you trade for him, the signing bonus portion of his contract is already paid out. So realistically, the Jets are going to have to pay a very small portion of that. I shouldn't say very small portion, but a relatively small portion of that contract. The Jets would be on the hook. So let's see, he'll be 30 years old next year. The Jets would have to pay him $17 million, $12 million, $17 million, $17 million over the next 4 years. He doesn't have guaranteed money after 2021. So then we could cut him and basically save the entirety of his cap hit, or we'd have to restructure him because he's going to want some more guaranteed money. So that would be the player I'd want to gun for just because we've been absolutely brutal at the edge rusher position for so long. So Max, I do like the Bears option there. I think that's probably a reasonable thought. V-Man says, I'll take one bad pick a year over our prior outcomes. If we could have one bad pick a year, that would be fantastic because our prior outcomes, when was the last time we had a second round hit? I mean, you're talking Mims this year, May back in 2017. And then before that, I think David Harris was the last second round pick that hit. I'm pretty sure he was a second round pick.
Right. And my issue isn't so much with Morgan being a bust rather than the logic of taking a player like Morgan. So if you take someone, like if I could understand your logic of, for instance, okay, Mike McCagnon, I give a lot of shit to Mike McCagnon, deservingly so. He's an awful drafter. But I really like the Ja'Kai Polite swing in the 3rd round because there was someone who's like, it's a position of need. There's a ton of talent. The issue is work ethic. So I had no issue with them doing that in the 3rd round. It made sense, but it didn't work out. So I myself could say, okay, I justified in my head why they went that route. It just didn't work out. With Morgan, to me, that makes 0 sense because you could have just signed a Joe Flacco instead of, using a 4th round pick where you could taken a wide receiver there or another corner there or something like that. So, if you're telling me that only one pick is going to turn out to be bad in draft, hell yeah, I'll sign up for that. But it's the logic of that Morgan pick that really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I think so. Max, what do you think about our most recent drafts? What do you think you would prefer? I think most of us would prefer one bad pick overall, but what are your thoughts on our most recent drafts?
At the time of the draft, I thought Ashton Davis for me was a bad pick before the Jamal trade. He had his all-pro safety in Jamal Adams, but right after he got traded to Seattle, I think that was a good pick in the end.
All right, let's see. We got another one. Ken Boyd says, why is Ryan the only one wearing Jets attire? Well, Matt's got a Jets background. He's got the look at Max. Whew. Be careful. This is a family show. We don't want to get too crazy, Max. No, I'm kidding. We got plenty of Jet stuff here, Ken. Come on, calm down. All right. Ed says D was bad. He's talking about D Milner, and I clicked on the wrong one. Okay, Miguel says, what do the Jets do if Trevor Lawrence stays in college? We've covered this before. Trevor Lawrence is not staying in college. There is no way he doesn't come out this year. He's not going to forgo $30 million of career earnings, because if he stays in school, that's 1 year longer. He's going to have to wait for that potential $500 million contract or whatever the next mega deal is going to be. Matt, what do you think about Trevor Lawrence staying in college? Or actually, no, let's do this. Let's flip the question a little bit. Rather than talking about him coming out or not coming out, what do the Jets do if he stays in college? Matt, I'll throw it to you.
They'll take Justin Fields then, because I think Justin Fields would be the QB1 in this draft class if Lawrence wasn't there. Now, make no mistake about it, there's a big difference between Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. I'm starting to really like Zach Wilson a lot too. He's climbing up my board, but I think that you'd have to take a quarterback, because, and I'm not an anti-Darnold guy. It's just I can't take that risk of having to start paying him big money when he is still this much of a question mark, and that fifth-year option is going to come into play after this offseason. You have to make a decision there. So it's really not that simple. And if you're hamstringing a new coach to having to fix Sam Darnold, you are also limiting the amount of people that you could bring in and hire. If you have the number one pick and you're saying, hey, yeah, Trevor Lawrence is staying in school, but we could take this Justin Fields kid and you could have fun and develop him, and we have him on a cheap rookie deal for the next 4 years. And you go, okay, yeah, that's really enticing. I'd love to do that. So from a roster building perspective, I still think, and a coaching recruiting perspective, I think you have to take the quarterback still there.
Max, what do you think the Jets should do in the event that Trevor Lawrence were to go back to school?
Originally, I would think the Jets should draft offensive linemen, but since how bad Sam Darnold's playing this year, I think Trey Lance reminds me a lot of Carson Wentz and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was not proven. He went to like a small school, Texas Tech, under Kingsbury, and what was the quarterback again that I was talking about?
Trey Lance?
Yeah, Trey Lance, yeah. He came from like North Dakota State, which is like the smallest school. It's like with Wentz and with Easton Stick. I feel like he is like a pro-style quarterback since the coaching staff at North Dakota State is like doing a lot with like its quarterbacks, like working them out, like getting ready for the NFL level. So I think Trey Lance is the quarterback to go.
So for me, if Trevor Lawrence decided to stay back in school, I would easily, this is such an easy decision for me, I would just go 0-16 again. He can't go back to school after we do that. No, I'm kidding. I would go with Matt's answer. I would definitely take Justin Fields at that point. Although I guess the question gets to this point where what happens if the Jets are locked into a top 2 pick, but that doesn't mean they're getting pick number 1. Like if we get pick number 2 and Trevor Lawrence were to go back to school, like say he doesn't like Jacksonville or something for some odd reason. Well, now Justin Fields goes to Jacksonville and the Jets are like, do we go with Wilson? Do we go with the stud tackle from Oregon? Do we go with a wide receiver? I'm not a huge fan of going receiver that high. Like I know I was big on CeeDee Lamb, but I would prefer to wait till later in the draft, like mid-teens through like 30s is where I would look for a wide receiver. So if the Jets had the second pick, I'd leave it up to whoever our head coach is to decide whether they want to keep Sam Darnold, whether they want to move on from him, or if they want to try and build a team up and just sort of go all in on the following year. But I think if you're picking 2, the pick has to be a quarterback, more likely than not. Let's see. What else is in this chat? Strickland says, you guys need to look at Trask in Florida in the quarterback conversation, the way he is playing in a strong division. He is playing really well right now. I did watch a little bit of his highlights. I have not followed him nearly as close as Trevor Lawrence. I'll be honest, he's someone that is exciting to watch. I think he has connected with Pitts really well down there, the tight end. who could definitely be in play for the Jets at the tail end of the first round. Matt, do you know anything about Trask from Florida?
He's my fifth quarterback in this draft class. I think he's gonna go in the late first round or early second round. I have Zach Wilson and Trey Lance ahead of him. And Trask is right there at 5. And it all depends, quarterback needy teams, they take quarterbacks who should go later, earlier. So that stuff happens all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if 5 quarterbacks go. Mac Jones from Alabama might even go in the first round or early second round. So I understand the enticingness, but I don't think the Jets are going to be in a position where he's a realistic option for them. I really think it's going to come down to Lawrence or Fields.
Max, do you know anything about Trask down in Florida?
I know Trask. I watched this video about Kyle Trask and how Florida is rebuilt, and I know Kyle Trask plays in a pro style offense, and the teams are probably gonna draft Kyle Trask or the Patriots since they lost Brady.
Yeah, look, I think my biggest fear is the Patriots getting their franchise quarterback so quickly after moving on from Tom Brady. And I'm hoping that Cam Newton is there for the next 2-3 years. I know we had Ray on this show a little while ago, the Patriots fans from DPN Sports. He wants to keep Cam Newton for another 3 years. And as a Jet fan, I would love to see that because I think he's injury prone. I think he's not a very good quarterback at this stage in his career. But yeah, I think the Patriots getting their quarterback doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies inside. Now, guys, if you have not done so, in the comment section, the live chat section at the top, wherever the pinned comment is, I have a link to our poll question of the day. The New York Jets will win how many games the rest of the season? I have a few numbers in there. If you guys want to head over there and answer that poll question, it is live for about a week. What's cool about this sided app that we're using for these poll questions is as you answer more questions and as you send out your opinion, you earn points and you could potentially get Amazon gift cards. So it's kind of a cool way to voice our opinion, and it's my way of hopefully trying to get you guys some cash on Amazon so you could buy more Jet stuff, of course. So you guys can try and answer that in the question box down below or above or wherever that little pinned comment winds up going. What else we got going on in the chat here? Let's see.
Any interest in talking about the Pat Fitzgerald rumor?
Ooh, I have not heard about that. I did see some comments in the chat. Do you know anything about Pat Fitzgerald? I'm not I don't know.
So he's been with Northwestern since 2006. So 15 years. He's 104-79. He's been in a bunch of bowl games. Last year they weren't great. They were 3-9, but this year they're 5-0. And they are 11th, ranked 11th right now, I believe, or that's the highest they got to, rank wise.
I'm reading a little forum post from Jet Nation. It says recent rankings have them at 8th right now. I don't know if that's actually accurate or not.
And by the way, our buddy Ali over at Loyal NY Jets fans and U Stadium broke the news. And I see he's in the chat too, so want to give him a shout out there. He likes him, so that's a good sign. I don't know a ton about him. From what I know, I'm intrigued though. So
yeah, I'll definitely do some more research. Ali, what's up, dude? I see him poking around in there. Yeah, dude, I am very, very high on anyone that Joe Douglas thinks he can bring in from the college ranks. And I like the head coaching option. Northwestern's a smart school over there. Hopefully the head coach is as smart. Max, do you know anything about Pat Fitzgerald?
The only thing I know is he comes from Chicago, and Pat Fitzgerald might work with the Bears since Matt Nagy's been terrible as a head coach. He ruins Mitch Trubisky. Nick Foles has been playing crap. I feel like the Jets should trade Sam Darnold to the Bears, and they should fire Matt Nagy.
Are you saying Nagy should come to the Jets?
No, I'm saying Matt Nagy should be fired, and the Bears should hire Pat Fitzgerald since he's a Chicago native.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Let's see. I'm just trying to see what other comments are on there. The Carolina Panthers reached out to Fitzgerald last year before hiring Matt Rule. Fitzgerald opted not to formally interview for the position. Fitzgerald has been highly regarded in NFL circles for years, and teams have routinely expressed interest in hiring him. In 2019, the Green Bay Packers also sought out Fitzgerald for an interview, in which he declined. It's unsure if Fitzgerald is ready to make the jump to the pros, but that certainly won't stop the Jets and other teams from trying. The Chicago Bears have long been linked to Fitzgerald as well. Hey, if there is a time for the Jets to possibly get this guy out of college, or any team to get this guy out of college, it's when there is a generational talent in Trevor Lawrence coming out, the Jets getting the first pick and having buku picks on top of it. So that would be an interesting route. I will have to dig deeper in it because I do not know enough actually about him. So I'd be spreading some false information or spewing stuff I don't know about if I comment too hard. Let's see. KD says, I want a small school Pat Mahomes and a freak like DK and a top 5 wide receiver in Allen Robinson. Yeah, I think everyone wants Pat Mahomes and DK Metcalf and Allen Robinson. Let's see. God, I'm trying to go through the chat and just see what's going on. What You Saying says, Jim Harbaugh would be such a backwards decision. We need young, new faces with Trevor Lawrence to take the Jets to the next level next year. I say we do whatever we got to do to get Dabo with Trevor. I very much echo that sentiment, what you saying, but I do not believe there's any shot that the Jets are getting Dabo out of Clemson. I think he is just getting paid so much money, and I think he is just a god when he walks on that campus. So I don't think if I were him, I wouldn't leave. Not for the Jets. I don't care about Trevor Lawrence coming here. I don't care what you offer me. He's already getting like close to $10 million a year from Clemson. You don't need to get greedy. Matt, what do you think about Harbaugh, not taking Harbaugh, bringing in Dabo, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think that would be bringing in Dabo would really be interesting. Like you said, though, there's no way that he is leaving. He's just got it. He's got it made in Clemson, man. He's like a god there. Same thing with Lincoln Riley. Like, I would love if Lincoln Riley would come to coach the Jets, but he's not leaving Oklahoma. If he's leaving Oklahoma, it's to coach the Cowboys. Like, I don't see him coming to the Jets and being their savior. Now, that's not to say that I don't think the Jets could dip in the college coaching, tree. I think obviously they're doing their due diligence on Fitzpatrick, which is interesting. So I'm just really excited about the opportunity for them to get into the college route, because I think that's where the league is going. It's becoming more of a college style, or they're kind of meshing, I guess, a little bit more. And I would like to see this team build through the draft. And to me, if you have someone who's a college coach and seeing all these guys, that's the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, it feels like that would be a leg up on the whole situation. That's almost why I want like Urban Meyer, because if you can steal Urban Meyer out of retirement, he has there's a good shot he recruited some of the players that are coming out this year. And I think he could have been sitting in your living room, and now he could be your head coach in the NFL. Hopefully. I don't know. We'll see. Max, what do you think about Dabo coming to the NFL with Trevor?
I disagree. I don't think Dabo has the personality to be in the NFL. He's just too soft-nosed players. His approach of coaching is more like a college way. If you're looking for a college coach to hire PJ Fleck or Jim Harbaugh, PJ Fleck has actually built a culture. I don't think Lincoln Riley's coming. Maybe Jim Harbaugh, because he's had success at the Niners. Like, he hasn't done good at Michigan, but Shea Patterson always sucked, even before coming to Michigan.
All right. Jimmy Brash says Joe Burrow is done for the year. Imagine drafting Trevor Lawrence and something similar happens while Darnold is playing the best football of his career in San Francisco. Look, that's going to be a fear. Injury is always just one play away, one awkward movement away, one bad tackle away. But I'll say this. That is why you need to draft offensive line. Sam Darnold failing the way he has failed is why you need to draft offensive line. We have the legitimate left tackle in Mekhi Becton. We're going to continue to build this offensive line for Trevor Lawrence before he steps foot on the field. So I don't think he's going to be put in the same situation that Burrow is, But yeah, look, if Trevor Lawrence goes down with a knee injury, that's going to be the argument that a lot of people have. Like, hey, maybe we just take all these draft picks because one player could go down like that. Like, why waste your first overall pick on Trevor Lawrence when he could go down with an injury? Now, for me, I don't think you play scared like that. I think if the guy hasn't shown that he's injury prone, which Lawrence has not shown he's injury prone, I think you pull the trigger on him and you don't look back. I don't care if Sam Darnold wins a Super Bowl somewhere else. Picking Trevor Lawrence right now is the right move. Matt, your thoughts?
So basically, sorry, I was lost in a comment thread. So basically, what you were saying is
Joe Burrow was injured. He was drafted first overall. Imagine Trevor Lawrence having the same thing happen to him with the New York Jets while Darnold's playing the best football of his career in San Francisco.
It's you got to take that risk. It's a part of the game. Like, obviously, you're not rooting for that to happen. Would I be surprised if Sam Darnold was playing well somewhere else? Absolutely not. But I'm not going to take not take the next quarterback because I'm fearful that maybe he gets hurt. You can't operate that way. If it happens, be prepared with a backup who you feel comfortable with, and you go from there. But you can't not take somebody first overall because you think maybe he's going to get hurt.
Max, what do you think about the thought of Trevor Lawrence getting hurt the same way Burrow got hurt?
If the Jets continue to build their offensive line, I think Trevor Lawrence will get hurt. Like in my recent video, why the Jets should not draft Trevor Lawrence, I said that the Jets should draft Penei Sewell from Oregon. My views have changed on Darnold because he hasn't played that good. So we should draft Trevor Lawrence in the first round, get Devonta Smith, get an actual offensive line, get weapons around Trevor.
Yeah, look, I think regardless of how things play out with either Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, the correct move right now is to trade Sam Darnold after the season, get your new head coach, link him up with a quarterback that he wants for his system. I don't want to see Sam Darnold with his third head coach in 4 years, a new offensive system, us regressing more or trying to dig out of this big hole. I think you guys are absolutely right. I think you got to go with Lawrence. Seamus McGinn says, by the way, what's up from the U.S. Navy stationed in Japan? Seamus, thank you so much for your service, and awesome, you're from Japan. I'm going to have to throw but you're in Japan. I'm going to have to throw a little thumbtack on my world map over there. So big props to tuning in. Let's see. Michael says, draft that kid from Alabama, Najee Harris. I would just want a bulldozer in the backfield. He's going to be a very intriguing prospect, I think, with that either the second first-round pick or the first pick in the second round. I think those are both potential spots that the Jets could go running back. I do think we need a franchise running back in this draft. I would take one, third round or earlier. I would say the first pick in the second round is where I'm really looking, and I would say Etienne. I would say Harris is probably my third running back. I would say it's probably Etienne, Gainwell, and then Harris. I'm not as high as I know Greenbean is on him, but hey, I'm all about trying to get some type of stud running back in here. Matt, what do you think about Najee Harris?
Yeah, usually I'm not someone who likes to take a running back in the first round, and I don't think the Jets should do that. But with the number of assets the Jets are going to have, especially if let's just assume that you get at minimum a second for Darnold and then maybe a later round pick. So if that's or realistically, including the third round, that would be 6 picks in the first 3 rounds if you made that deal. I think you can take a running back with one of those picks. And if you can sell me on taking Najee Harris 33rd overall, then okay, I would probably do it. And if ETN gets there, I would prefer ETN, but I don't think he gets out of the first round. To me, Harris is someone who you can give the ball 20 times to a game and just let him go to town on that behind that offensive line. And he's a bigger guy, kind of like Derrick Henry size-wise, but I think he has good hands out of the backfield too. Like, I don't think he's someone who you can only, hand him the ball and have him plow up the middle every time. I think he's a little more versatile than some people think.
Max, what do you think about Najee Harris and the Jets possibly taking a running back early in the draft?
I think the Jets should get a running back early in the second round. So what I'm thinking about the Jets should draft late in the first round is Devonta Smith from Alabama. He's a game changer, and the Jets seriously need playmakers around Trevor Lawrence. Then the second round, first pick, I'm either thinking about Najee Harris. If Travis Etienne falls, pick Etienne. He's worked with Lawrence and Clemson, but Najee Harris is better than Travis Etienne. Reminds me of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's like one of the best running backs in football right now.
Seamus, again, with another great question. What do y'all think about center Creed Humphrey out of Ohio State? Creed Humphrey is the top center in the country. For me, right now, I completely understand the thought of going center because of the play we've gotten out of Connor McGovern. And you could talk me into taking center. I would say this. I have seen Adam Gase and players that play under Adam Gase really play well once they get him out of there. So I would like to see Connor McGovern under a new head coach. He was a top 10 center last year. There's no reason he should be as bad as he is this year. Maybe adding a different guard will help him out. Maybe having someone who can maybe make some calls at the line of scrimmage, call it some protections or something like that might help. I don't know. If we take Creed Humphrey, I'm probably looking to play him or McGovern at guard, and we just kind of have a whoever's best plays sort of situation. Matt, what do you think about Creed?
I like him as a prospect. I don't think I would take him from where he's going to go. I would go a different direction. I think the Jets do need help on the interior offensive line, though. I would look to add a guard in the mid rounds, maybe a couple of interior offensive linemen, because I definitely do think they need help at the guard position. But Humphrey's probably going to be off the board before I'm starting to look at interior offensive lines, because to me, I'm prioritizing corner, edge, and another wide receiver, and possibly a running back like we mentioned in the second round. So I don't think the Jets are going to take him or take one interior offensive lineman that early. So if you tell me you can grab someone in round 3, then cool. I'm all about it.
Max, do you know anything about Creed Humphrey, and what do you think about possibly taking a center pretty high in this draft?
I think it's I don't know anything about Creed Humphrey, but Connor McGovern was a top 10 center last year, and the reason Connor McGovern's been playing bad is because of Adam Gase. Adam Gase doesn't use talents. Like, for last year, Ryan Tannehill was ruined under Adam Gase. Once he left Adam Gase, he became more efficient. He couldn't even, like, a lot of players played a lot better once they left Gase. Devontae Parker, he broke out last year after not breaking out with Adam Gase. What's the Kansas City running back that played for Gase? Opted out due to COVID.
I was gonna say that Le'Veon Bell guy.
No, the one that got opted out due to COVID.
Williams.
Oh yeah, he played a lot better under Bieniemy. Jarvis Landry played better without Gase. And I think if Sam Darnold leaves Gase, he's going to play so much better.
That would be the hope for sure.
And also, Connor McGovern would play so much better when Gase leaves, my opinion.
Yeah, that's really the hope. I mean, it's hard to grade this whole roster knowing how other players have fared outside of Adam Gase's control. Like right now, it feels like the Jets have no talent whatsoever, aside from the draft class that we just had. But I would think that under a new head coach, we reassess the situation. If for some reason Douglas thinks, hey, look, we need a center because McGovern's not the answer, I trust his judgment until otherwise, proven otherwise. So that would be my take on that. Chris says, feel good question. Your top favorite or your top 5 favorite Jets of all time. Let's see. It's going to be hard to go in order for me, but I'll say this. I would go Wayne Corbett 1. I would say Nick Mangold 2. Curtis Martin 3. Revis was awesome to watch. I'd probably go Revis, even though I'm sour on how his career ended with us. And then 5, man, I'm gonna be missing a bunch of good players. You might get me on Sean Ellis or something like that. I really liked Braylon Edwards when he was here for that brief period of time when he did the Dougie over top of the Patriots. Yeah. I just that was one of the most fun seasons that I could remember being a Jet fan. Matt, what about you? Who are your top 5 Jets of all time?
Ellis is one. If you don't know, I have his signed jersey hanging up over there. So he's one for me. Curtis Martin is high up on that list. I'll say he's 2. Mangold 3. Bilal Powell 4, and Robbie Anderson 5.
Ooh, very interesting. Max, what about you? Who are your top 5?
Because I'm like the most recent Jets fan. My number 1 is Jamal Adams. He was like really talented. He was like 2 Pro Bowler. Number 2, even though I didn't watch Wayne Corbett, I met him at Jets Test last year, as well as Sam Darnold. My number 3 is Sam Darnold. I think he's been playing. I think the last 2 seasons he played really good, and he showed flashes of being really good. Also, I met him and played ping pong with him at Jets Test last year. Number 4, I would say Leverance Coles. Yeah, he was pretty good, and I also met him at Jets Test. And number 5, I didn't watch him, but Darrell Revis, he was pretty good.
Pretty good. I would say he's the best corner of all time. That for me, I know it's a tough discussion because everyone's probably going to say Deion Sanders, but I think Revis is by far the best cornerback of all time for that one season. One of the best corners of all time career-wise as well, but that one season you got to see out of him, the way the rules have changed so drastically during that time period, the way it was so hard for cornerbacks to play the way he did, and he followed the team's best wide receivers, and he shut down, it was like Chad Johnson, it was Randy Moss in that. I think Randy Moss was in that category at that time. I think T.O. was in there. It was Steve Marcus Smith. Colston.
Yeah. Steve Smith. Probably Roddy White too then, right? If they played the Falcons that year.
Yeah, could have been Roddy White. Yeah, no, did Roddy White come before or after Julio? Because
he was before Julio.
He was before Julio?
Yeah, and Julio was drafted in 11 or 12, so it had to been White. The only one, oddly enough, the only one who got to him was Ted Ginn, if you remember.
That's right. I remember that he was just so friggin' fast. It was the speed that always killed him. It was, I would say, between him and was it Stevie Johnson? Was Stevie Johnson the one always smoking Revis as well?
No. Well, at the second stint, it was Sammy Watkins.
That's
in that 17 game. That's terrible. Yeah.
It's absolutely that speed. Speed kills. Speed builds pressure. Pressure bursts pipes, as we've been saying since last year with Joe Douglas. Matt Curtis, my man, says, what disappointing Jets players bounce back after we get rid of Adam Gase? I think we answered this question a few weeks ago because I'm pretty sure I know what Matt's going to say, so I'll avoid that player right now. But I'll say McGovern. That would be the guy I'd hope plays better. Max, I'll go to you first. Who do you think bounces back?
I think Herndon and Darnold. Once Tannehill left Miami, he became so much better. Ryan Tannehill did so much better with a defensive coach than Adam Gase. Do quarterbacks usually do better with an offense or defensive coaches? It's usually with offense, but with Ryan Tannehill, because Adam Gase was terrible, it was offense. I would say Chris Herndon, because in 2018, his rookie year, he was like super good. I was hyped for him. He was like the future. But once we hired Gase, it was like all downhill. The suspension last year, but I think he's going to bounce back if we hire Bieniemy. And then Darnold, I think, because he's going to be the next Tannehill. He's going to like leave. He's going to go to like place like the Niners or the Saints. He's going to like turn around his career. Adam Gase like ruins quarterbacks, and that's what I've been saying.
What you saying? Oh wait, shit! I did not go to Matt. Matt, your thoughts? Sorry, I'm like skipping ahead here. Who would you say is going to bounce back?
To me, Herndon's a huge candidate to bounce back. I still think he has a high ceiling. I know he's dropped a ton of passes. I get it. And he hasn't been really good this year. But to me, he just has Adam Gase freedom watch like all over him. Because to me, there's talent there. You saw on the touchdown reception. That was a nice play in the end zone to be able to catch that ball. So I think you run him back and you run Ryan Griffin back at a tight end. And you see what they do next year. I mean, he's still on his rookie deal. So if he's bad again next year, then okay, you move on. But I think he deserves one more kick at the can.
Yeah, Herndon for me was such a disappointment this year. I would say him and McGovern would be the two that really I soured on the most watching this season. And I still believe in Herndon. Watching those catches that he made, along with the drop, uh, it gives me so much hope because it's like, oh, that's what that guy could be if he focused. So I'm hoping maybe he's just in his own head right now, coming back a year after missing a whole year off. I don't know. I hope Herndon can really come back big next year. What You Saying comes back with another question. I can see the Jets trading for Odell Beckham Jr. if he's healthy. Imagine a healthy OBJ with Allen Robinson and Mims paired up with Trevor Lawrence. Sheesh. What you guys think about trading for OBJ if healthy? I don't think personality-wise OBJ lines up with what Douglas wants. He likes bringing in team captains, and Odell doesn't strike me as a team kind of guy, I guess. Now, he's not so much a headache on the field as much as he is off the field and potentially on the sidelines and whatnot. I don't think the Jets are trading for Odell and getting Allen Robinson. I think we're getting one or the other. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be one or the other. And don't give up draft capital when you could go out and sign Allen Robinson. To me, he's a better player at this point than Odell Beckham Jr. I feel confident in saying that, and I would much rather have Allen Robinson on my team than Odell.
Max, what do you think about the possibility of trading for Odell?
I think it would be dumb. Odell Beckham Jr. has the same thing with Juju. Like, I recently had two posts saying, like, Juju shouldn't be signed by the Jets. He's like, I get it. Like, listen, I'm all about having fun in football, but all Juju Smith-Schuster does is dance and play Fortnite. That's a similar thing with OBJ. I would rather have Allen Robinson. He has done so much better. His quarterbacks are crap, but Allen Robinson still produces.
Yeah, Allen Robinson is who I would prefer over Odell. 10 times out of 10. I would say almost any free agent wide receiver I would prefer over Odell. Within reason, I think. There's going to be a lot of guys. Let's pull up the free agents for wide receiver this upcoming year. And what's crazy, too, is there's going to be so many more that potentially hit free agency because of this cap situation that's going on that we can't even call out all these different guys. So we got A.J. Green, who's playing on a franchise tag right now. He's 33 years old. I don't think he's leaving Cincinnati. I think he just stays there. Allen Robinson's a big one. T.Y. Hilton, he's 32 years old. He's going to be a free agent. Larry Fitzgerald is going to retire a Cardinal. He's not going anywhere. Yep. Sammy Watkins is a free agent. Kenny Stills, Marvin Jones, Brashad Perriman, Corey Davis, Danny Amendola, Cordero Patterson, John Ross, Keelan Cole, Will Fuller, Demarcus Robinson. There's a lot of guys that could be potentially on the market. Curtis Samuel, I think, is one we should keep an eye on. 25 years old. He's young enough to stay here long term. I think there's going to be some interesting options for the New York Jets. If you had to pick a free agent wide receiver, Matt, that is not named Allen Robinson, is there another player that you're kind of looking at?
I like Kenny Golladay a lot. Did you mention him?
I didn't. He was further down the list. I think they just did this based on like the amount of money they're getting paid because he's not getting paid like a crazy ton right now. He's only 28 years old.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Kenny Golladay. I think he would be next up on my list there. There were some other names that were intriguing to me, but I think this year he's been banged up, so we haven't really seen a ton of him. But to me, he would be perfect to pair on the other side with Mims.
Max, are there any other free agent wide receivers that you would be interested in outside of Allen Robinson?
I think Kenny Golladay or I don't want Juju, but I want Kenny Golladay because he's actually like a good receiver and he's like the number one in Detroit. He's also like pretty good in fantasy, so he's like a good number one receiver. And imagine like this offense paired with Mims, it would be pretty scary.
Roland Ello says, I say take a mulligan on 2020 season. Player performance is questionable for both college and pro ranks. So who's to say Trevor will be better than Sam? Trade down for more picks in the future. Roland, Trevor Lawrence was the top-rated prospect going into college. And since then, from high school to now, he's like 75-1. The dude's one loss came against a historic LSU team in the national championship game. You do not pass on Trevor Lawrence. Do not pass on Trevor Lawrence. But I will say this. Look, in terms of the rest of our picks, I'm worried about the draft because I think guys are going to get drafted too high. I think guys are going to get drafted too low. But the nice thing is every NFL team is in this same boat. And the nice thing is the Jets have been stinking the entire year. So that means the Jets probably got an early head start on their scouting. Now, with the way the Jets scouting department is made up, you have Joe Douglas, who is, a scout his whole life. You have Phil Savage. You got a bunch of guys in that room. I would love to see them somehow rope Todd McShay into our front office in some capacity because he was roommates with Joe Douglas. So you got to think there's probably some type of pipeline there in terms of knowledge. Matt, what do you think of the idea of trading down because of what happened with the football seasons, both in college and the pros? The floor is yours.
Yeah, no, you can't. If you have an opportunity to take Trevor Lawrence, you have to do it. And this isn't like in week 4 when we still weren't sure what was going to happen. And, earlier on, I was like, okay, can we give Sam at least a chance to get through the rest of this season? But then you have an injury and you have the regression continuing week over week. It's a different conversation than what we were talking about in September, man. It's not the same. I think it was more of a debate then. Now it's, if you have the number 1 pick, you're taking Trevor Lawrence. Like, with all due respect to Sam Darnold, maybe he figures it out somewhere else, but you can't gamble and take that risk with that cap number going to where it's going to be in year 4 and year 5 and beyond. You take Lawrence, man. It's real simple. You don't make it difficult.
Max, what do you think about possibly trading down and not taking Trevor Lawrence and instead accumulating a bunch of picks because of what happened this fall?
I recently went over this on my YouTube channel of why the Jets should not draft Trevor Lawrence. I said one player does not fix a team. Like, I was thinking about earlier trading, get 3 first-round picks, drafting Penei Sewell, Devonta Smith, and then now since Darnold regressed 3 touchdowns. Many quarterbacks throw for 3 touchdowns in one game. I think now I'm thinking Jets should take Trevor.
Yeah, that's exactly where I fall as well. Jake Klein says, when are you guys collaborating with Let's Talk Jets Radio? They said they want to. I've actually reached out to the guys at Let's Talk Jets Radio, and they have said the same thing to me. They want to collaborate, but they're busy right now with their work schedule on Mondays and Tuesdays. So that is the reason why that collaboration has not happened yet. But it is on the radar. It's definitely something that I'm looking at. Kevin Bang says, my mom said Juju's solid. Matt and Max, I think we should hire Kevin's mom into our front office.
Was she talking about football, though?
I don't know. I think Juju is a stuffed animal that Kevin really likes. Oh, God. What else we got in here? Jets Island Midwest says, let's say Gase is in on the tank. How does JD convince him to throw a season without promising he will be back in 2021? Here's how you do it. You tell him he's going to be back in 2021. That's 100% what you do, knowing you're not the one making the call. It's coming from Chris Johnson. And if Chris Johnson backs him up and says, hey, don't worry, we got your back, guess what? You got the fallback of Woody Johnson coming back from the UK and him dropping the axe on Adam Gase. I would say there's a 99% chance that Adam Gase is not back here next year. There's a 1% chance that scares the ever-living crap out of me that he's in on the tank and he is coming back next year. Matt, your thoughts?
I would say 99.99999. There's a very, 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 very slim chance that he is back. Very slim. And the only reason for that would be if Woody Johnson is not back in time and Christopher Johnson just doesn't want to swallow his pride. But that's not going to happen. It's not. And that's not just me saying, oh, I don't want it to happen, so I'm going to speak it into existence. It makes no logical sense at all. You can't go 0-16 and bring the coach back after they went 7-9 the year before, and they hired a GM after him. You got to blow this up, restart, bring in a new head coach, take the quarterback, and build this thing right.
Max, what do you think about if Adam Gase is in on the tank?
I think Adam Gase is getting fired 100% after this year. I think he's not coming back next year. I think the Jets are going to hire Eric Bieniemy since a lot of NFL GMs these days and owners are looking for more offensive coaches, and Eric Bieniemy has like some of the most creative offenses. In the Jets versus Chiefs game, Eric Bieniemy called the Jets sweep at the right time. I've seen it with Eric Bieniemy. He's like calling it to a fullback. Like, how many times in the NFL these days is it called to a fullback? None. But Eric Bieniemy he can easily work with Trevor Lawrence because Trevor Lawrence can like always suggest plays to Eric Bieniemy because he's like such a creative play caller.
Dark Demonic says, if we win a game, the losing will keep going into the next decade. Oh, Dark, you are my favorite upsetting commenter on my channel. Like, you always have something that just makes me want to cry occasionally. And I just hope if we can finish out this season with all losses, go 0-16, then from then on out, hopefully, we are not a losing organization. I don't care. I just want Trevor Lawrence. I want to have hope more than anything, and this season has shown me there is no hope except for Trevor Lawrence. Matt, what do you think about the Jets continuing into the next decade, even though we're already into this decade?
I don't want to believe it. Dark, man, he is as pessimistic as it gets, man. I got to give him credit. That's a special kind of pessimism. I think even if they did win a game and did not take Trevor Lawrence, I still think that the future can be bright. I don't think it's Trevor or bust completely. Now, believe me, I really, really want Trevor Lawrence. I do, but I think you can make it work with Justin Fields or Zach Wilson and go from there.
Max, what do you think about losing going on into the next decade?
I disagree. I don't think the Jets are going to be losing. We actually have a legit GM now, Joe Douglas. If Mike McHagnon was still there, I would say yes, because Mike McHagnon is a horrible drafter. The only good pick that he did besides Sam Darnold is Jamal Adams. And I really feel like that we're going to be a Super Bowl team by 2025. In 2021, we're going to get 3 first-round picks. We're going to draft, like, basically some offense. And then to get the better receiving core in 2022, we're going to draft all defense. And we're going to hire a proven head coach like Eric Bieniemy, Jim Harbaugh, PJ Fleck.
Yeah, that is the hope, 100%. I can't deal with any more losing. I want this channel to take off and take flight. Unlike our Jets, we could not take flight. We skidded off the runway and crashed into a swamp. It's terrible. Jean-Jacques Saucy, thank you for becoming the newest member of the Jets Talk channel. Jean was a member before, so he has just re-upped. So thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you want to hang around and see this channel grow. What else we got in here? Matt F. has been commenting a lot. I've been seeing it pop up because we just talked about it, so I wanted to wait a little bit longer. But now we will get to it. How do you guys feel about Fitzgerald from Northwestern, as reports are saying he is the Jets' #1 choice for coach per rumors? Matt, do you want to take the floor on Fitzgerald again?
Yeah, sure. I don't know a ton about him, but from what I do know, he's been at Northwestern for a really, really long time. That team struggled last year. They've been good for a while before that, and they are really playing good football this year as they're 5-0. So he's definitely intriguing, and I'm going to pay more attention to him now with these rumors coming around. I'm interested in it. I don't think it would be a bad decision per se, but I like the logic and the thought process behind it. So I would like to dive in a little bit more on him, but definitely interested in that rumor for sure.
So a little bit on Pat Fitzgerald, according to a post over at Jet Nation, over on the forums over there. The Carolina Panthers reached out to Fitzgerald about their vacancy before hiring Baylor's Matt Rule last year. Fitzgerald opted not to formally interview for the position. Fitzgerald has been highly regarded in NFL circles for years, and teams have routinely expressed interest in hiring him. In 2019, the Green Bay Packers also sought out Fitzgerald for an interview, in which he declined. It's unsure if Fitzgerald is ready to make the jump to the pros, but that certainly won't stop the Jets and other teams from trying. The Chicago Bears have long been linked to Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald has been with Northwestern since 2001. He is a defensive guy. So let's see. In terms of his coaching, in 2000, he was with Idaho. He was a linebacker slash special teams coach. Northwestern, he arrived there in 2001. He was a DB coach. 2002 to 2003 was a linebacker coach. 2004 to 2005 was a linebacker coach. And then 2006 to present, he has been a head coach. He is 104-79 in his coaching career. He is 4-5 in bowl wins. He was a Big Ten Coach of the Year in 2018. Is that true? He was actually inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2008. I would assume as a player, most likely, as that was pretty early into his coaching career. So that's kind of what we know about Fitzgerald. Again, this kind of got thrown on us like midstream here, so it's not. I don't know as much as I feel like I should know at this point in time. Submission says, "What's up, guys? Who are your top 3 head coaching options for next year? Offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Keep up the good work." Let's rattle off our top 3 head coaching candidates. We'll skip the offensive and defensive coordinator because that's a little tougher. For me, top guy, Joe Brady. I'll go realistic because my other guys would be like Urban Meyer, Lincoln Riley, Dabo Swinney, that sort of thing. So I'll say Joe Brady at 1. I would say someone as a head coach in college, someone like a Matt Campbell, someone like maybe a Pat Fitzgerald. The fact that this many teams have reached out to him over the years leads me to believe they know something about this guy, so that gets me excited. And then I would say 3 is probably going to be Jim Harbaugh right now, just because of the clout he brings with him and the record, the winning atmosphere. And, sometimes it just doesn't work out in certain stretches. And maybe that's just where it is in Michigan. Or maybe the NFL has passed him by and he's just not the guy he once was. Who knows? Matt, who are your top 3 head coaching candidates?
I'll say Arthur Smith, Joe Brady, and Eric Bieniemy.
Max, what about you? Who would your 3 head coaching?
My number 1 is Eric Bieniemy. The reason why I think why he's not my number 1 is he developed Patrick Mahomes into a top 10 best NFL QB right now. Number 2, PJ Fleck. He can build a culture around Minnesota, and he's also turning around many college programs. My number 3 is Greg Roman, which is low because his offenses recently have been struggling. And my number 4, which Matt O'Leary heavily disagrees, is Jim Harbaugh. I really think he's a proven winner in the NFL. And after he left the Niners, the 49ers became a loser organization until 2019.
Chris P. says, "Did you guys hear about Joe Douglas focusing primarily on defense for this upcoming draft? Like he's going to use every pick but number 1 on defense. Thoughts?" I'll say this. I think it depends drastically on what you do in free agency. If you can rope in, let's say, Allen Robinson, Joe Thuney, and, if I can get those 2, then I would feel more comfortable focusing on defense, maybe outside of running back, because there's not really, as long as we solidify the offensive line and we add a number 1 wide receiver, whether that's through the draft or free agency, I'm kind of okay with almost rolling with what we got. Running back is a position I would like to go draft, I think. And then look, I want edge rusher. I want cornerback. I think our defense is horrible right now. It would do us phenomenally well next year if we go after some of these elite college prospects. I don't know. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on where that Seattle pick is. If we should all be rooting real hard for the Rams and them winning that division, and then hopefully Seattle just not making a wild card, but Russell Wilson's incredible, so they're definitely making it into the playoffs. But depending on where that pick winds up, will put you in position for different types of players. When I look at drafts, generally the elite players at the premier positions are going first. So you're talking quarterback, edge rusher, cornerback, left tackle. So if we're taking quarterback at number 1 and you're saying mid-20s for the second first-round pick, I would say that is prime position for a cornerback. I would say maybe more so than an edge. I think the elite edges go pretty early. This free agent class has a lot of edge rushers in it. So if you could go out and get 3 big guys, and you get Tooney, you get Robinson, you get Bud Dupree or Shaq Barrett or some elite edge rusher, and then you supplement that in the let's say you get cornerback with that second first round pick, maybe you go running back in the second round, and then you go cornerback again with whatever pick you get for Sam Darnold. I have no problem with the Jets focusing on defense as long as free agency kind of goes and protects Trevor Lawrence and gives him the help he needs compared to how we handled the Sam Darnold situation. I don't need to completely overload the offense. Matt, what do you think about Joe Douglas focusing on the defense in this upcoming draft?
I don't think it's going to be all defense, and I don't think it's going to be all offense either. I think it's going to be a mix. It depends on what positions also. Like if he goes heavy and it's like interior defensive line, linebacker, safety, even in the later rounds, then I'd be like, okay, like what are we doing here, man? But corner is definitely a need in this draft and in free agency. Edge is definitely a need. And on the offensive side of the ball, look, we still have holes there. You would like another wide receiver. You'd like another running back. You need help on the interior offensive line. You're going to take a quarterback with Trevor Lawrence. But I think this team and roster as a whole has a lot of issues. So I don't think you can really have the luxury of just focusing on one side of the ball. I think it is going to be mixed. And also it depends on what happens in free agency, like you were saying, too. If you fill a couple of holes at one position in free agency, then okay, maybe you don't need to draft a corner if you sign 2 or whatever the decision is. So I think it's a wait and see kind of a deal, but I'd be very surprised if it was heavy on one side of the ball.
Max, what do you think about the Jets potentially focusing on the defensive side of the ball in this draft outside of drafting Trevor Lawrence at number 1?
I disagree. Like, I get the Panthers drafted this year on defense, but their biggest weakness, the Panthers, was defense. For the Jets, they have a lot of weaknesses. I think the Jets should draft a running back, a wide receiver, corners, and edge, and a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. That's what I think the Jets should draft.
Tommy R says, how much cap money is JD required to spend next year? How much cap money can JD roll over to the year after? So it's a weird question. It's a very odd calculation that has to be done. If I'm correct in this wording, I believe the Jets need to hit the cap floor like over the course of a 4-year span. So it depends what we spent over the course of a 4-year thing. So we could not spend a lot of money this year and roll over it all into the following year, but it depends on how the previous 3 years were. And I don't know offhand that math. The Jets are going to have about $80 million in cap space. We're going to have 38 players under contract. So we're going to have to get up to that 53 number. So we got to fill a lot of holes. There's going to be a lot of players that are going to have to come in. Now, 9 of those picks or 10 of those players are going to be draft picks, and then it's just going to be, plugging in lower priced free agents, undrafted free agents. Some of them are going to be stars in terms of like, an Allen Robinson or a Bud Dupree or a Tooney or something like that. So cap wise, I would bet we spend everything but $20 million. I bet we have about 15 to 20 million left over that will roll into the season, because I really think the Jets trading for like those late round picks, they're going to look for players on bad contracts that are going to get cut from their team just before the season, and then I could see them trying to trade those later round picks to those teams rather than just having them cut them, and the Jets taking on those contracts. How much money do you want to see the Jets spend this year, Matt, and how much would you like to see them roll over into the next year?
Yeah, I think around that $20 million left over is pretty good, because you don't want to go like full Mike McCagnon mode and blow it all in one offseason like you did in 2015. you have to build this thing up really through the draft and supplement in free agency. So while this team has a ton of holes, you can't go out and fill every single one in free agency. You can't sign 5 big name guys. If you get, let's say 2 guys, a number 1 receiver, and maybe it's a corner, and then you in the first round you go with Trevor Lawrence, and then take an edge in the Seattle pick in the back half of the first round. Then okay, maybe you're in a pretty good shape there, and you probably have money left over. But I don't want to see him go full in, just push all my chips to the table. I think he's going to be more aggressive than what he was this past year, but I don't expect any kind of spending spree where it's like a 100% built team through free agency.
Max, what about you? What do you think Joe Douglas does with his cap space, and how much do you want to see possibly roll over to the next year?
I think like Joe Douglas is going to spend like $30 million next year, and then 2021 I think he's going to spend like $10 million, because this year he needs to fill up a lot of holes, and then once those holes get fixed, he just have to sign a bunch of free agents.
Yeah, so try to roll over, just a little bit each year and kind of give yourself a little bit of a buffer. Jake Klein says, is Green Bean dead or something? No, Green Bean shrunk and he turned into Max. No, I'm kidding. Green Bean was supposed to be on. He texted me a little bit before the show, and he said that he was in the car. He was going to try and stream from the car while his wife was driving, and I told him, no, it's all right. We'll roll without you for the week. But we certainly miss Green Bean, and we'll have him on next week. Guys, that takes us to the 10 o'clock hour, which means it is the end of our show. Guys, if you have not already done so, sub up Matt O'Leary, sub up Max is NY Jets. Thank you so much for joining us, Max, for this week's episode of Talkin' Jets. I'll throw it to you first, Max. Tell the fans out there where they can find you, and any last words for the panel.
Find me on YouTube, Max NY Jets. I have so far 25 subscribers, and tomorrow I'm going to make a video on top OCs the Jets should hire.
Very cool. Matt, any last words for the panel?
Yes, new episode of Just Jets is dropping tomorrow morning. I'm going to record it right after this, actually. So please tune into that. Always appreciate it. And check out the channel and all on social media at Matt O'Leary NY.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight. It's been a lot of fun. We will be back here next week. Matt O'Leary, Green Bean, and myself. And we will be talking Jets all night. Guys, my name's Ryan. I've been your pilot. Jets.